so basically what Chelsea taught us will help us a lot learning this one, because she talked about effective teachers, and we're talking about how research enhances being an effective teacher, like doing research. So let's begin. All right, I want you guys to write down 3 things your teachers did on a daily basis that you will also do as a teacher. And here's some examples, like assigning homework, watching YouTube videos to learn, and anything. Write down 3 things. And keep lots of room on that paper because we need to use it a lot. Okay, we got 3 things. It could be anything. Anything that your teacher did growing up. Like making jokes, being funny, assigning chapters to read, scratching their nose every day that you're probably going to do. All right, do we have 3 things? Okay, sweet. So, I want you guys to close your eyes and imagine. Very good. Okay, you guys walk into a classroom and students are sitting there and they're kind of going crazy a little bit, but you're like, I'm the teacher and I'm going to take control of the class, I'm going to teach them something new. So you come and you stand in the front of the classroom. All right, and you're wearing a blue hat, just for fun. So you're standing there and you're thinking, okay, what am I going to teach these students today? What am I going to use? Techniques, I made a lesson plan, I got everything figured out. Okay, and then you're going to start teaching, but then you realize, no, this isn't working, and you think back to what your teachers did to make the situation work. And you think, okay, this is good. I've got it all under control. I'm going to do something that my teachers did. And then you start teaching, you say, okay, class, and here you go. And you present a lecture to them, and you teach them a bunch of brand new things. And then at the end, you assign reading, and you assign homework for them to do, and they say, okay, this homework is due next class. End. All right, open your eyes. All right, would you classify yourself as an effective teacher in that situation? Put a happy face or a sad face on your paper. You came in, you taught. Now remember, you guys are pretty successful today. You know, like you're living in Hawaii, you're becoming a teacher. Do you guys feel like what you did as a teacher in that situation was effective teaching? You know, you went, you did a lecture, you applied, hey, you thought back to previous people that taught you. What do you guys think? Jonah, do you think that you were an effective teacher in that situation?
I think not as much if I had to like be changing my mind and like pondering during the lesson and stuff.
All right. Oh, no. So here are your outcomes for today. We're going to learn, you guys are going to be able to understand these 3 things. And it's going to be the research process. It's going to be how to use proven research practices as a teacher, and also how to use research data to improve your teaching and your learning. And also at the end of today, we're going to write down at least 3 ways to apply these practices that we're going to go over. Just implement practices in your teaching later on. So, look at all these people. We know what they are. Business people, baseball players, plumbers, lawyers, dentists, chefs, actors, artists. We hear about this all the time. They all include something in their lives, in their profession, that also teachers do. And that is research. Baseball players do research on how to improve, become better baseball players, and so do chefs, so do actors. They do some research, they, try new things, and they search and search and search and search, which is researching for better improvements. And so do teachers. Teachers do the same thing. And that's why we do that. So these 3 things are what we just said we're going to understand. This is the how to be an effective teacher according to research, like using research, which is the 3 processes that we just stated in our outcomes. So let's start with the research process, which is the first step. So here is the research process. Jonah, do you want to read the first one?
Yes. Problem. What do I want to know?
What do you want to know? So let's picture we are all chefs in a restaurant, okay? And we're making cookies.
Close my eyes.
If you want, but we're going to be reading off the board. So we're all making cookies, and Alex is like, what do I want to know? That's different. I want to improve my cookies. What do I want to know? You know, so that's what we think. I want to improve my cookies. That's what I want to know. All right, Chelsea, you want to read the next one?
Prediction. What do I think is the right answer?
So, Alex, what do you think is the right answer? What would you include in your cookies that makes them even better?
Sorted nuts.
Nuts. Okay, sounds good. All right, Jonah, read the next one.
These you like cookies?
Next one.
Procedure. How will I solve the problem?
So, Alex, how are you going to solve the problem?
I'm gonna add nuts.
You're going to add nuts.
Like,
Very easy,
like
yeah.
almonds. No,
Almonds.
gross. You're like macadamia nuts.
I like that one. Okay, Chelsea, what's the next one?
Data. What will I look for?
So, what are you going to look for?
Nuts.
Nuts, yeah, but also
No, maybe
I
I
was
should
thinking
like
like
you want
you want to know how to improve your cookies. So you're adding nuts.
I just really want to add nuts.
What
Like,
will
you need
crunchy,
like
like
be crunchier.
To nut ratio. You can't just be like.
I want.
You could also look for like if you sell more or you sell less.
For anything.
Yeah.
That is, yeah. What about if they taste good? What if,
That would be.
I'm pretty sure they're gonna taste good. They're coming out of my oven.
you're
They're
gonna
nuts.
you're gonna add sugar, yeah. Good, okay, Alex, want to read the last one?
What do the results tell me? That my cookies are awesome and that I'm a great person.
Good.
Kind of what I've been following my whole life.
So a lot of teachers go through this research process to get some answers. Okay, so what is research and why do we value it in society? Chelsea, why do we value research?
Because it is. Well, research is just information on everything, and we value it because it can help us improve. We can learn from mistakes. We can better ourselves. Yeah.
Got that? Pretty good. Very good. All right. So it can be dangerous to teach how we were taught. Kind of scary. So this is why we need to understand the research process. So why do you think it can be dangerous to teach the way we were taught, Jonah?
Because the world is full of good teachers.
Right. And so if you had some your whole entire life, how are you going to teach?
Like so.
Like so. Good. So here's the second one, the second part of our outcome. Using research or proven research-based teaching practices. All right, so here's a list of practices teachers use in their classroom today. Most teachers. I want you to look through them and pick one or two or three or how many there are that are proven to be effective. And you can write down your paper if you want. You could call it A, B, C, D, F. Or you can just write it down.
Oh, okay.
Which ones have been proven to be effective?
Do you pick 3 of those?
Pick as many as you want. How many? As many as are up there. As many as are up there. Like, come on, we always do this. We show a video, we do an activity, right? We control, yeah. We assign chapters to read, totally, right? But which ones are proven to be effective?
I thought cookies.
All right, Chelsea, have you found one?
Yeah, but I think it depends on the age. Because delivering a lecture and having students take notes obviously is not something you can do in like younger elementary school. But that is something that's effective for college students or high school students.
I actually kind of agree with you. When I was reading these, I was like, oh, well, I do this every day. I'm sure there's research behind it.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, none of these have research to support their effectiveness, according to the author of the book. And I'm like, wow. I mean, probably people do like little, you know, hey, I watched a video and people are doing better. But proven research done by like lots and thousands of teachers, no. So does this necessarily imply that they're effective? just because they're not proven to be effective, does that mean that they aren't effective? Think about that for a second. All right, Alex, read this clearly and...
Research cannot and does not identify the right or best way to teach, nor does it suggest that certain instructional practices should always or never be used, but research can illuminate which instructional practices are most likely to achieve the desired results, with which kinds of learners and under what conditions, Dr. Miriam, that period.
I knew you were done. So how do you feel about that one?
How do I feel about this? I hate research. I know I'm going to be a good teacher with or without it. But if I had to think about this and really had to do research, because I know it is important, joking aside, I feel like it will make me a better teacher. I guess everyone has to research in a way, like, you know what I mean? Like, not everything's going to work. So like, I feel like every year as I'm a teacher, I'm going to do something different. And that's necessarily research. And it's not so much just research, like in the computer, it's researching for your kids. And every class is a different research project because there's so many. So does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly what you said. There are different levels of research, right? So, I mean, we're not writing a research paper where we have to find all these sources as teachers. We're just evaluating our students and seeing what works and sharing it with other teachers to see, you know, what they feel about it. So, Jonah, what about you? Anything?
It reminds me of a quote in the first chapter of this book. It says that there's like no one formula for teaching.
True.
That pretty much every class is going to be different, and the research can identify like good ways, but the thing is they're not going to work for every class. And maybe lecture and taking notes is perfect for one class, but it's going to be terrible for another class.
Exactly, and that is the thing with research, is that some of it is going to be completely different because we have so many unique individuals, right? And so it might work for one class, it might not work for another. It might work for one teacher, it might not work for another, you know. But proven research, when I talked about that in the last with all that list, I think that was implying like over, like in general, like everywhere, you know, like it works in every single situation. So, all right, this is the third one. Using research data to improve teaching and learning. All right, so now we're going to look at data, or, you know, how can we find data? So why is the data important? Why does it matter? What effect does research have on learners? So when I talk about data, I'm talking about the results, the conclusion at the end. You know, we made our cookies, and we added nuts, and that's the conclusion. Now, what effect do the almonds or the nuts or anything that we put in the cookies, what effect does it have on the cookies as a whole? What effect does our research have on the learners? Chelsea?
Well, it depends if you use it or not. If the research proves that X activity is better than a different one, then, you know, if you implement that activity, obviously you should get better results. So I think it's important because it can give you new ways to look at things and new things to do, and if it works, it should be implemented.
Okay. Now, when you were teaching about effective teaching, what was the thing that effective teachers, like what was the number one goal? Student
Achievement.
achievement, exactly. Student achievement. Which is research improves student learning. It improves student achievement. So if we apply research in our classes, we don't just come in and do everything our other teachers taught, how we were taught, you know, because it worked for us at the time. Like, look where we are. We're successful. You know, some of us are living in TVA, some of us are living somewhere nice. You know, we're living in Hawaii. We're married, right?
True.
Single. Yeah. Single.
Also true.
We're doing good, right? So we think, wow, we're being successful, you know, and we think as teachers, hey, we walk in, we own the class, you know, and everything's fine, and our teaching is the best because we know we're the best, because, you know, we went to school and we learned it. We went to school in Hawaii, but, you know, we have to do research. We have to know our students, we have to get to know them, use the data to improve their learning. Here is another quote, and I love it. Who wants to read it?
Most decisions made in education, especially in the urban schools, are made for the benefit of the adults, not the children.
All right, think about it for a minute. Hold like 30 seconds, and then you're gonna share it with each other and kind of like who agrees and who doesn't agree with it. So read it again. Are made for the benefit of the adults, not the children. Right here it says, do you agree, do you disagree, and why? All right, no, I'm not included in this. This is you guys. You talk to each other and
I agree.
Let's hear why.
For example, they have classes of like 30 plus kids, and that's really not good to have so many students together because the teacher can't really
Give all of them time you need.
Right, but that is better for the adults because you don't have to pay as many, and yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, well, yeah. I was thinking how, like, with tests and trying to get all your kids at, like, a really high whatever scores, like, obviously, and, like, the curriculum that they choose, it's not necessarily, like, what's best for children at the time, always. Like, I think that the general education classes we have to take are usually, like, a waste of time, you know? Unless they're really applying to what you're going into and stuff. But they're getting more money and we're here longer, so that's a benefit.
very good. Yeah? So we agree? You disagree to a certain extent? We agree with it?
I agree.
I do agree with it too. I think in most schools that they're focusing more on the adults and not so much on the children, when it should be focused on the students. Like all of our things should be focused on the students. And that's what I wrote. It is for them we do research, and it is because of them that we teach. I think a lot of teachers forget that. You know, they think, oh, I have a job, I'm making good money, but they don't remember why they have a job. You know, imagine a class with no students. You won't teach. You'll have no one to teach, right? And so research, you know, improves our teaching, and it'll keep us still with the job because students won't give up and quit school or anything. But yes. All right, so these are ways that teachers use the data, right? And I know it sounds kind of weird right now, but when I start explaining it, it'll make more sense. So we have software systems, and that can be anything between like Canvas, you know, or which we all know what Canvas is, or any other, you know, software program where people have it done on the computer, their attendance, you know, or like their grades, or, you know, just comments on how they're doing or progress, like anything to keep in line with, to keep them updated, right? And that's doing research. So I'm going to do something new today, for example. I'm going to walk in and I'm going to be wearing short shorts or something and see how the students, like anything, and see how the students react, right? And then I'm going to go write it down in my thing, you know, in my program to say, okay, this is how they reacted. Like that's doing research. When we go through the research process to see what is effective and what is not. And we can use these, you know, systems, these softwares, just like teachers use Canvas, you know, as like to keep everything organized and to keep everything updated. We also have lesson planning programs, right? So I can't imagine every single day for school writing out that huge report, every single class, that huge report. You know, most of it for the same classes, probably some is the same, and everything can be organized online, right, in a learning planning program. And that also, lesson planning program. And that also will help us with our research data. And social media, this one's really good because research, it doesn't matter if you do it for your class, it matters like just your class, it's everyone else, right? So where do we get our research from, right? How do we know that this worked in the other classroom, right? It's from other teachers. So social media, I kind of mean like sharing your research, right? And they've got tons of websites, you know, with teachers posting other, you know, like posting what works in their class, what's effective, what's not effective, and that counts as research. You know, although it's not proven by like, you know, like top educational people, it's a certain level of research, right? And then when you go to the next level, you know, like UDL, you know, that's done by professionals. So those are just ways. Okay, here's a little bit of a Bob Wallace. He's a middle school teacher in New Jersey, and he decided to do research in his classroom. Okay, and so what I'm going to get you guys to do is I'm going to get you guys to read what he kind of did and choose what you would choose as the best way to do it. So, what would you choose to do? Jonah, can you read A?
You give a test after the video.
Just after the video. Alex, can you read B?
Read group on video, watch video, then give same test on me.
As A. Good. And then Chelsea, can you read C?
Brief group on video, watch video, then stopped it frequently to ask questions or hold classroom discussions.
Okay, so which one would you guys do? Just right now, the first thing you think of. Would you just, give a test after video to assess your students? Would you brief the group on the video so they kind of know what they're going to be watching, which is what most of us usually do? Or are you going to stop the video every 2 minutes, to, hey, okay, what do you guys think about this? Okay, oh, what do you think about that? Oh, okay. Okay, let's see, do we understand what's going on? During, and hold classroom discussions during the video every so often. Write it down on your paper. Good, okay.
The
So-
suspense. Killing me.
How would you even research this? This is a pretty obvious answer. Alex, how would you research this guy? Kind of like what Bob Wallace did.
What would I do?
Yeah. How to research it with your class. Remember how we went over the research process and there's all those steps,
Yeah.
right? Just in general, what would you do to test, to see what's the most effective?
B.
Would you, let me see, let me think another way. To test to see if any of these work, you'd come into class and what would you do? Would you test every single one of them? Would you just test one?
Oh,
and
I would only test B
Why would you only test B?
because more children learn when you stop and talk about it. It's like,
Is that a research-based statement?
yes.
It is?
Because I've done something on this for another education class where students, if you just give them something and then expect them to take a test, they're not going to pay attention to it. They're not watching the video to answer questions unless you're telling them. But if you stop and talk to them about it, they're going to do better on their test rather than having you just watch it. And then if you stop frequently, I haven't done research on that, but I know that I get really freaking irritated
How
about
would you do
listening to
research
you.
on that?
Huh?
How would you do research on that?
How would I do research on that? Watch the face of my students as they're crying.
So you would actually perform these
I don't know
activities?
how I do research on that.
Good, yeah. I would come in and I would perform each one of them, and write it down, but not just once. I would do it numerous times, because maybe one day the kids are tired, or just in my class in general, I would test each one, or do research on it to see which one works. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, that Bob Wallace, who did the whole research, he found that C was the most effective, right? Now, the way I made it sound to you guys was stop it every 5 seconds, right? So it kind of sounded bad, but actually, it is good. I used to do this in one of my classes in high school where the teacher did stop it, but sometimes it was fun, he'd stop it every 2 seconds, and we're like, what the heck, can we just watch it? Other times, he'd stop it when we were all confused, and he would just know when to stop it and to explain it. Or, Rebecca, what do you think about this? Just to keep us engaged so we're not falling asleep in the back. Because even some of my classes, in physics classes, we watch these hour-long videos that get super boring.
Yeah, today at Lay Elementary, there was this huge long reading thing that the kids had to read in pairs, and they were just plowing through it. And I don't know, I feel like I would have a bigger attention span than they would, but I was getting bored. So then I started stopping them hey, do you know what that word means? And they're like, oh, no. And then we would talk about it, and then we'd be back on topic again. It was good.
Thank you, Mr. Steffen.
Okay, so this is a pretty easy one. Now that we know what worked for the research, right? What are you guys going to do in your classes? Now that we know which one Bob Wallace researched, and maybe other teachers researched too, just in general, would you guys still come in and do the same thing as you always do? It's pretty easy answer,
No
Chelsea.
way.
Like if I picked C because I would do C. So
Okay.
you're asking would I always do C? Yeah, I would always do C.
Well, now we know that it's proven in research to work. You'd still choose.
I would still
Okay,
do C.
so
Yeah, I
what
would
did you choose before?
Fine.
I chose C.
You chose, yeah, you chose. Okay, so what if you chose A? Would you change it?
I think that you're asking us, sorry, not to argue with you or anything, but I think you're asking us if we're gonna change our answer based on someone who's professional. And I feel like, why should we change our answer if everyone's research is gonna be different? That guy might have had a class where that research worked, but in our class it couldn't have worked.
Yeah,
Or
that's
it
why I
could've
said
worked.
he was like an educational guy, and he did in his class, but like, it was.
So I'm just saying, my answer wouldn't change. I would do it the way I feel like my students would learn better.
But what if you did research
Huh?
and you realized that the way you always did it didn't work and you should do it another way? Would you change to
Yeah.
the other way? That's
Yeah.
what Bob did, basically.
But I'm just saying, like, the way he did it. Or
He
like
did
whatever
it
he
the
did.
same way.
I guess I would change, but I wouldn't like, never mind, I'll explain it, but yeah, okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now I guess write down 3 different ways that you would implement these research-based practices in your future classroom. So remember when you guys wrote down 3 things that you would normally do right in the beginning of class? Chelsea, what's one thing you wrote down that you would do on a daily basis that your teacher did?
Praise students.
Sorry?
Praise students.
Praise students. Okay, Jonah? One thing, do you remember in your class?
Oh, visual aids. Oh wait, restate the question.
You guys probably just sleep on me! Okay, no, in the beginning, when we did an activity, do you remember?
Yeah.
When you wrote down 3 things you would do in your
Yeah,
class?
yeah.
Yeah, what's one thing?
Visual aids, use visual aids.
Use visual aids, okay. Nice. Alex, do you have one?
Homework.
Homework.
I wasn't falling asleep.
I'm just teasing you guys. Okay, good. So now we got to write down 3 different ways that, out of everything I've taught you today about research, what are ways you can implement it into your future classrooms? For example, hey, I'm gonna now, when I watch a movie with my class, I'm gonna stop it every few minutes, if I need to explain it. That's one thing, right? Or I'm gonna use research in my classrooms. Or anything else I taught you. And when you have a really good one, share it with your neighbor. The best one that you wrote down.
To research.
Me too.
You took all the
I don't know. To get it like
Research! Nice!
It still has my not this.
Okay.
This like this part.
Alright, we all have something down? Do we share one idea? You guys share?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Share your ideas.
We did. We said research.
John?
I actually said research.
That was your back one?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is research?
It's analyzing what happened in the classroom after the fact and thinking, would there be a better way? And then next time you might want to try out your better way and then see if it was better or if the other way worked better.
Alright, very good. Alright, last few questions. Oh, here's our lesson outcomes, by the way. Just a reminder, hey look, what we did. Learners recognize that to be an effective teacher, they must understand the research process. They must use proven research-based teaching practices, went over that too, and use research data to improve their teaching and learning. Do you agree that we're all going to do this? Don't answer just yet. We also will be able to provide 3 ways to implement research-based practices, and you guys worked on 3 ways, so I think you guys got that. Very good. Okay, last 3 questions. Were you able to come up with 3 different ways to apply this in your future classroom? Put a smiley face on your paper if you were.
We're checking these papers.
No. But I know you guys write down because I want you guys to see.
Can there be like in the middle?
You know what? Yeah. It's all right.
What if you do?
Okay, you all got a happy face or a sad face? Okay. Do you want to be an effective teacher? Freak out. Okay, happy face or smiley face on your papers? And do you understand the impact proven research-based practices have on learners and teachers? That's basically what I talked about today, so do you guys understand it? Yeah, okay. Maybe like these nods. Sweet. And that's it. You guys are free to go. Good job. Oh.
Nice.
Where do I stop at? Oh, right there, right there, right there, right there, right there. I have no idea. Oh. Hey, psst. Jonah, how did, oh.